What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and I'm going to make a video based on popular demand. I've been getting more comments lately about Tucson than any other place, so apparently some people are following this channel because they're considering Tucson or they are moving to Tucson, and or I just talk too much about Phoenix and people are like, hey, how about Tucson? What's up with that? Nonetheless, the comments have been pouring in from multiple different people here. So we're going to go ahead and dial in Tucson, the home of the University of Arizona Wildcats. And I say that because, yeah, that's really the big thing in Tucson. Outside of Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, which is one of the biggest aircraft repair bases on Earth, that's the two big things to be known about Tucson. I mean, Tucson does have 500,000 people that live there, and maybe even more that reside in the metropolitan area, but that's really what it's known for. And then it has in the surrounding areas, you have, like I talked about in the previous video, Bisbee, Saguaro National Park. You have this beautiful Sonoran Desert. I would say, one thing that I will say, the Sonoran Desert in Tucson is probably the most beautiful desert you will find in all of the world. It's high desert. I know, like there's places in Phoenix, Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, Papago, Camelback Mountain that has nice desert. But the desert terrain, undeveloped around Tucson, is some of the most beautiful desert you will see. And I mean, some of you might be watching and saying the desert is beautiful. Yeah, actually it is. It's alive. The desert is a teeming ecosystem. This isn't like the desert where nothing lives. There's plenty of animals out there. If you haven't already seen the video on my other channel where I talk about all the creatures that are, you got to be on the lookout for. But so let's go ahead and talk about some of the other things that Tucson's known for. So they've also got Raytheon missile systems, which goes hand in hand with Davis-Monthan. That's the number 2 employer there. So the number 1 employer in Tucson is University of Arizona, followed by Raytheon Missile Systems, then the state, then comes Davis-Monthan. So the military complex, the military industry in Tucson is a big factor there. So when you're down there, a lot of people you're going to be associating with, they're either in college or they have some sort of military background or government work, right? Whether it be border patrol because it's close to the border, so the border that's a border hub. And U.S. Customs, and then you've got the general population that works at places like Walmart, and also another industry that's pretty popular in Tucson because of the gem show is precious metals, copper, gold, stuff like that. Like I said, the Tucson Gem Show is a major event. That's one of the things that Tucson's really known for outside of the school, and I guess it wouldn't be a fair video about Tucson if I didn't mention one of the most famous accolades that it's actually achieved. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site for gastronomy. For those of you, if you're anything like me, you just found out like maybe not too long ago what gastronomy means, because gastronomy is not a very common word that we use here in the United States, but gastronomy, they call it food. Culinary is what you would normally call it, but gastronomy is basically the integration of culture and food, right? Like, so in Italy, for example, that was when I first caught wind of it when I went to Italy, which was gastronomy is a big part of what Leonardo da Vinci and the Italians were really all about, was how food is life. Food is soul. You go to Spain, you go to Italy, they talk about food. So the fact that Tucson is one of the few cities, I think there's only 18 cities on the list for UNESCO World Heritage for food. I don't know the exact. I'd love to find that, but that's pretty impressive to see that Tucson is known for its food scene. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's Sonoran-style Mexican food. Here it is. In 2015, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization (UNESCO) designated Tucson a World City of Gastronomy under the Creative Cities Network program, becoming thus the first city of gastronomy in the United States. That's huge. Like I said, the rest of the world values the food and culture together more so than the United States. I mean, what do we have in the United States? What are we known for? Hot dogs, chili dogs, pizza, which is Italian, hamburgers and fries, I guess. I'm not making a mockery of United States American food, but that's really what American food comes down to. Maybe a steak and potato and broccoli, right? If I missed anything, let me know. But for Tucson to be the first American city, it tells you something about the food scene, okay? And some of you are going to really be drawn to that. Now, as far as other things, you have the Arizona Theater that's down there. That's Broadway in Tucson, so there's a performing arts scene down in the Gaslight Theater area. Literary arts, Tucson Symphony Orchestra. Tucson's nickname is known as the Old Pueblo. So back in the Spanish-American or Mexican-American War, 5 years after the treaty was signed, Tucson was really the city that was where a lot of the transition was taking place after that war that took place between Mexico and America. That was where the cavalry went all the way down to Veracruz and then marched into Mexico City. And after that all, I can do a whole video on that, but I'm trying to do it really quick. Basically, the United States wanted the land north of the Rio Grande, and Mexico didn't want to give that to them, so they went to war over it because Mexico said you can have the land north of the Nuestis River in Texas, and so the United States and Mexico went to war over that, and so there was like this big land deal that happened, and southern Arizona was a part of that, and the southern part of Arizona eventually became a part of the United States 5 years after the war. So that's why I bring up all that. I mean, I'd have to go into a whole long story, but I did study the Mexican-American War in college under my foreign policy class, so I could definitely do a video on the Mexican-American War and how Arizona how basically the state of Arizona was created through that process. A lot of people can get, it's a sore subject, but then again, it's history and it happened. I wasn't there, you weren't there, so I all we know is what the history books say, right? Let's see what else. So yeah, I mean, that's basically the big things to know. Like I said, I mean, the things to do in Tucson.
Tucson is home to stunning desert views.
Playing some music. Yeah, they're always boasting about the stunning views in Tucson, right? One of the things that I found to be interesting, only 2 non-captive jaguars, the largest cats in the New World, are known to reside within the U.S. One of them, nicknamed El Jefe, is a Tucson celebrity. Discovered in 2011, he can be found stalking the Santa Rita Mountains 25 miles south of the city. Jaguars are a near threatened species. Biologists estimate that there are about 15,000 left in the wild. So there's jaguars down there in Tucson's desert, which is kind of cool. I mean, I don't know of any jaguars up here in Phoenix, right? So the fact that they've got those jaguars down there, I think is kind of interesting. But Tucson is the oldest incorporated city in Arizona, incorporated in 1877. Remember, the state of Arizona was founded, I think, in 1912? Don't quote me on that. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. I think it was 1912. You should keep in mind, if you don't already know, Arizona State Sun Devils and the University of Arizona Wildcats, they do have a long-standing rivalry, something to keep in mind, right? I already mentioned the Tucson Gem Show. That attracts about 50,000 people annually. And so you've got that. Let's see what else. I'm just trying to dial it in, see if there's anything else. Oh, I already mentioned that Guinness Book of World Records, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is the largest aircraft repair shop and storage facility on Earth. Yet again, we talked about Davis-Monthan. If you're interested in the airport, I think Tucson International Airport only flies to about 15 destinations around the nation. That's not a lot. So you basically have to catch a connecting flight to, say, Los Angeles to get anywhere else. So you're not going to get direct flights out of Tucson. Tucson's the second biggest airport in Phoenix, but it's not popping off, okay? Another interesting thing that I think is worth mentioning is some of the earliest evidence of corn cultivation in North America comes from Pima County, which is where Tucson's located. So those corn kernels are about 4,000 years old. I mean, if you didn't know, corn is not it's a GMO. It's completely a GMO. The original corn that comes from Mexico, it doesn't look anything like the kernel corn that we see today. So it's been hybrid and it's been cultivated and crossbred by mankind to basically produce corn, and now we got corn syrup and corn feed and all this different stuff. But yeah, I mean, the things that I really like to do in Tucson when I go down there personally, I always like to go to the Pima Air and Space Museum. I think that's a really nice museum, but my favorite museum is the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum. It's a little bit out of town. You could probably in that day, you could do the Saguaro National Park, Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum, and Old Tucson. All three outstanding. It's out there a little bit, but I enjoy all three of those. But I really like the Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum. I think I'm proud to say that that's a great museum, in my opinion. So if you ever go to Tucson, that's something to put on the list. That whole area is over on West Tucson, by the way. There's also a pretty cool mission called San Xavier. I like the San Xavier mission. My dad used to take us over there. It's history. It's if you go to California, you can go to all the missions: San Juan Bautista, San Juan Capistrano, San Francisco, San Diego. All those missions. Well, Mission San Xavier was one of the missions, and it was in just outside of Tucson. So Old Tucson, like I just mentioned, when it's a place to explore. They've filmed westerns there. Like that's where a lot of westerns were filmed back in the day. Recreationally, I think that Mount Lemmon is because of the proximity between Mount Lemmon and the ski resorts and all the things, Summerhaven, up there in Mount Lemmon, and the views that you get in Mount Lemmon. I think that's an advantage that Tucson has that Phoenix doesn't have, where you just drive up Mount Lemmon and you're up there in the pines and you can go camping and it's beautiful and you escape the city within, it's an hour drive, and the drive up there is beautiful. It's amazing, actually. So I think that's an advantage that they have. They have also 7 falls. If you're into waterfalls, you might want to check that out. Then there's the Sabino Canyon Recreation Area. That's another really amazing recreational area, really. If you're into something like Where's the Homes, I mean, we could do several videos about Tucson, but where the nice areas are around Tucson, where people pay the big dollars, you're gonna get that up against the Mount Lemmon. You're gonna get that in the Catalina foothills. They've also got these beautiful golf resorts. I mean, the golfing down in Tucson is unbelievable. They've got just so many golf facilities. It's an amazing place. A lot of the amazing golfing takes place along the Catalina mountain range, like Mount Lemmon, the Catalina State Park, that whole area, Oro Valley. There's just a lot of golf courses down there. So if you're looking to retire and you're thinking about moving down to Tucson, you're going to be wowed by the golfing that's down there. Also, because of University of Arizona's background in astronomy, they have several, like Kitt Peak. They have observatories on Kitt Peak. You go up to Kitt Peak. That's another thing you can do, is go up to Kitt Peak and check out the National Observatory. I mean, that's some of the clearest skies you will get, with low light pollution, high altitude, and a great view of the stars from Kitt Peak. I want to say there's another I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but there's this, stargazing is big down in Tucson, and University of Arizona is really known for that. You got Agua Caliente Park. You've got so much to do down there, really. But another thing that's worth mentioning is the Biosphere 2. Biosphere 2 was a big deal back in the 90s, but now they've got several different biospheres. But the idea behind Biosphere 2 was you were going to be able to simulate what it would be like to live on Mars or the moon. As a matter of fact, you remember that movie with Pauly Shore, Biodome? That was filmed. That's Biosphere 2. Trail Dust Town, you might want to check that out. Bear in mind, downtown Tucson is not the bee's knees. It's not South Tucson itself, like in the core. It's not the most ideal place to live. That's kind of the barrio, and they have Barrio Viejo. If you don't know what a barrio is, now you know. Barrio Santa Rosa is in the same area, but the further you get past the University of Arizona and closer to the Catalina Mountains, the more beautiful it's going to get. But down there in the Santa Cruz River Valley, near the Santa Cruz River, it's kind of iffy, okay? And I'm telling you this because that's like considered there was some things that came out that said Tucson is Tucson really the worst place in Arizona to live, and South Tucson ranked number 1. So I'm just telling you this. It's not just, this isn't my opinion so much as just what's been stated by the general consensus. South Tucson and just Tucson in that little center right there off the I-10 and the 19, not where you really want to live. If you're going to move there, check out the Catalina foothills, be at the base of some of those foothills. Maybe even Sahuarita, Oro Valley, Casas Adobes, that whole area right around there. The closer you are to the mountain, the better off you're going to be. And so I hope this kind of paints a broad picture of things to know about Tucson, but it's nice down there. I considered moving down there. I did. It's just my family's in Phoenix, but I would consider living down in Tucson. I would definitely want to be closer to the Catalina Mountains or on the foothills because, oh my gosh, it's just some beautiful desert living. You can get some real beautiful desert living if out in the foothills. But if you're down there on that river valley, it's not really desirable, to be honest with you. So that's my recommendation. You can go live down South Tucson and Tucson if you want, but just bear in mind that's when you're looking at an apartment that's only going to cost you $720 a month for a 2 or 3 bedroom. That's why, okay? And Phoenix has areas like that in South Phoenix, okay? But we'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks to everyone who liked the video and subscribed to Living in Arizona. We'll keep them coming, and we'll see you guys next time.